You're listening to Operation Self Reset with Jake Naraki. What's going on, you freaking awesome people? Welcome back to Operation Self Reset. My name is Jake Naraki, coming to you live from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where each and every week we dive into a different topic in the world of personal development to help you become freaking awesome. With that being said, we're going to be diving into the topic of what it takes to become the ultimate leader, the ultimate warrior. And, I know a lot of you guys out there are reading books and listening to audiobooks and doing a lot of things on personal growth. And first of all, I applaud you guys. That is awesome for doing that. But there needs to be something a little deeper. I think all of us can watch a movie and we gain a couple things from it. But as you know, times pass and we kind of forget what exactly happened in that movie or in relation to our personal growth. What happens to these books? What happens in the books? What are the good ideas, the things that really inspire us to take personal action? And so today, that's what I want to reflect on. First of all, I'm kind of happy I did this. Back in 2015, I started reading books, obviously, like most people do, duh. But what I'm trying to get to is that I did something different than I've never done before. And that is, I actually started taking notes, almost like I was back in school. And I would put the page name with like an idea and a quote. And I want to pull out of a couple ideas here out of a book called Developing the Leader Within from a gentleman named John Maxwell. John Maxwell is kind of like a leader expert in that field. He writes a lot of books on the topic of leadership. And there's one idea that he put in the book that was pretty interesting. He talked about a Dr. Campolo who studied 50 people over the age of 90 years old, and he asked them this: if you could live your life over, what would you do differently? And out of the 50 people, he kind of got the three same answers. And they were this: number one, they would reflect more. Number two, they would risk more. And number three, I would do more things that would live after I was dead. So the first three, or the top three, I should say, were reflect more, risk more, and I would do more things that would live after I was dead. Now, the interesting part is I had the opportunity to sit next to a very old seasoned fellow on a flight out to Seattle, and I asked that man, about himself, and he had family, he owned an Italian restaurant, and all different types of things. And the conversation kept going and going and going, and I was fortunate enough to ask him, what's the one thing he wishes he would have done differently, either creating business or personal or what have you. And the one thing that he said was he wishes he would have spent more time with his family. Now, that's the easy answer. It's an aha moment for a lot of us. And it's kind of one of those things that we know that, we understand that, but you really don't understand that until it's too late. You don't really understand it until it's the last hour or the last couple of minutes where you reflect. And it's a really intriguing question because it makes you think, well, what are we really designed here for? Is it to achieve, to move forward, or is it to be with family? Now, as we know, there are people that are extremely rich and they sacrifice it a lot to get to that level, but we also understand that there's a lot of people that sacrificed nothing, became nothing, and but yet they're in a very happy place. So, what is the right answer? And the only suggestion that I have, and I know I'm a young man in an old man's world, but the only suggestion I have is just to do your best. And that seems like a loaded question. And when it comes to leadership, I have a whole notebook here, literally filled with quotes and ideas about leadership. And with leadership, the only quote or idea I can give you is to do your best. And I'm just going to turn the page here and I'm randomly going to read one of the ideas of leadership. And one of the ideas are integrity. Integrity is a result of self discipline, inner trust, and a decision to be relentlessly honest in all situations. So in reality, that kind of relates to leadership, of course, right? Integrity, being, having good morals, values, ideas. Here's another one related to. Uh, uh, that one doesn't apply. Well, the one I was going to read, it says, now I'm doing this randomly to show you to hopefully connect the dots here, but one of the pages he described Henry Ford. Henry Ford hated new design, and he wanted time to stop where it was. To be a great leader, you must change new ideas, growth. Now, what's interesting with Henry Ford is a couple of ideas. Number one, he would fire you instantly. Yes, fire you instantly if you did not try the food or soup before putting salt or pepper on. Now, back in whenever Henry Ford was around, the early 1900s, as we know, it was very formal. You sat down, you had family meals, proper food was brought out, you served it on a plate, you handed it around. And Henry Ford's big thing was that if you did not try the soup or you did not try the meal before you put, or if you did try the soup or you tried the meal before you put soup or salt or pepper on, sorry for the tongue twisters here I'm coming across, he would appreciate you if you did not put salt or pepper on before you tasted it. Now, if you were the type of person that put salt and pepper on first and then try the food, he did not like that. He actually fired people because of that. Now, Henry Ford maybe wasn't the most morally sound individual. He had a great vision. He sped up the process of manufacturing vehicles. He wasn't very good with his workers. He kind of strong-armed a lot of people. He didn't give them fair wages. There's a lot of things that he did not do correctly, but there was a lot of things that he did correctly, and that was try something and do something different. Be original thinker. But unfortunately, that was his demise also. He was so obsessed and so proud of his accomplishments that when people told him that, hey, Mr. Ford, maybe we should try painting our vehicles a different color other than black, Mr. Ford, Henry Ford, hated that idea. He hated people that wanted to change it up. He hated people that were thinkers. He hated people that wanted to deviate from the original plan. Now, there are times for both, right? So, getting back to my idea of doing your best, you need to do your best in that moment. At that time, Henry Ford was doing the best that he could. He thought creating cars that were all black were the best idea. He thought creating all the cars exactly the same was the best idea. But he also did not take into effect of listening to other people. He didn't take into the account of how the auto industry was becoming more dynamic, was becoming more intrigued in color and fashion and change and shapes, and Henry Ford didn't. And so to get back to my original idea is to do your best. To do your best in that moment only. Fortunately, all the situations that we go into, there's a cause and effect. All the decisions that you make, there's a cause and effect. Some of the decisions you make are really good. Some of the decisions you make are really poor. Do your best in that moment. Interesting kind of concept, right? In these books that we read, there's ideas that get brought up to us. There's quotes and keywords and theories and statements and stories that really intrigue us and they go make us think. And that's really good. But when it comes down to it, when it's you in a role or you in a position or you in a decision process, all you can do in that moment is to do your best. To hopefully that the input that has been put into your brain through either your reading or listening or communication skills can assist you in that moment. Because when it comes down to making that decision right then and there, you don't have a notebook full of quotes. You don't have a notebook full of stories. You don't have a notebook full of ideas. The only thing that you have is what is truly within you at that specific moment, and that specific moment is going to allow you to do your best. So, in reality, this is kind of the easy answer. Do your best. Do your best in anything that you can, from your education to relationships to your children to your hobbies, your job, career, what have you, is to do your best. But how do we make sure that our best is continuously getting better? The only way to continuously get better is to improve the content that goes in between our ears, aka our brain. And the way to do that is to read, to listen, to communicate, to experience. The more experiences you have, the better you become. Because, like I said, the decisions that we make are dynamic. They give us feedback if it was a good decision or a bad decision. And so the question is, how do you want to be perceived as a leader? Do you want to be perceived as a leader that does its best, does his or her best in that moment, and then you throw the rest to the wall? Or do you do your best in that moment, understanding that you're going to grow and learn from it, that you may make mistakes, that you may not initially make the right decision, but you know, no matter of a doubt, that you will improve upon it? It's a really big question, and the question is yours to decide. When you reflect on your life and the things that you find important or the things that you wish you'd done differently, it gets back to the beginning here. Do your best. Now, that man at that time thought he was doing his best. The man that I sat next to in the airplane, doing his best for his family, maybe working long hours at the restaurant that prohibited him to be a good father. At that time, he thought he was doing his best. But because I had the conversation with him, he enlightened me that to be my best or to do my best, it made me realize that the best thing that he did at that time was to provide for his family. In return, reflecting, it was not his best. So now it's transferred to me, and it made me understand that to do my best or to be my best father is not to copy the same mishaps that that gentleman has had previously. It's a weird approach to a very popular topic, leadership. Unfortunately, the only thing that you can truly do is to do your best. Do your best in that moment, do your best in that idea, because there comes a point when the best is not good enough, but you can only hope that you have the ability to transition, to become better, to understand that it's a growing process. Be your best. Be your best in that moment. Be your best in that day. Be your best when you shake the hands, when you smile in the mirror, when you shave your face or comb your hair. Be your best. It's it's a very easy process to understand that. But to embrace the do your best or be your best mentality, you need to be you must be prepared to make mistakes. You must be prepared to bite it. You must be prepared to feel horrible and have regrets. But if you know that you went into it and you personally did your best, that's all you can ask for. And to reflect on this, to bring it home, I took a written exam, and I honestly thought I was giving it my best. But after I reflected on the exam and realized I didn't fare as well as I wanted to, there were a couple of red flags that made me realize that I wasn't doing my best, that I wasn't being myself. During that exam, I was a little arrogant and cocky. I felt overly confident. I felt that I didn't need to read the question fully. I felt that I had it, and that was my demise. Now, in the moment, I was doing my best. In reflection, I didn't do my best. And so it's an interesting dilemma, but the great thing out of that scenario is that I grew from it, and I understood that my best wasn't my best. So from there on out, I'm going to do my best. A very intriguing, interesting kind of concept in the whole world of leadership, motivation, personal achievement, and of course, doing your best. All you can do is do your best, but be prepared to fail. Be prepared to realize that you didn't do your best, and that will prepare you to become and be your best in the future. So, if this wasn't the most complicated podcast you ever heard in your life, well, I appreciate you for sticking to the end. I appreciate you for listening. I appreciate you for being a part of this journey. And for all of us that strive to become and do our best, I applaud you. I thank you for listening to this, to potentially realizing that you can become a little better, but in every scenario, just do your best. With that being said, if you need anything from me, reach out to Jake at OperationSelfReset.com. And until next time, be freaking awesome. We'll see you guys. Thank you for listening.